Why does ABC Fake News keep Jimmy Kimmel, a man with no talent and very poor television ratings, on the air? Why do the TV syndicates put up with it? Also, totally biased coverage. Get the bum off the air. I'm the bum. I'm the bum. And he posted this, I think this is interesting, at 12:49 a.m., 11 minutes after the show ended on the East Coast, which is nice. He watches us live. Hi, Mr. President. How are you? Thanks for watching us on TV instead of on YouTube. We appreciate that. And I'll tell you, it's viewers like you who keep us on the air, ironically.
That clip got laughs. The audience reacted, Kimmel moved forward, and the show continued. But what many viewers didn't realize that night is this. It wasn't the first time Trump had tried to push Kimmel off the air. It wasn't even the second or the most serious attempt. Just weeks earlier, something unprecedented happened. A sitting president didn't just criticize a comedian online. He allegedly leveraged the full weight of federal influence, regulatory pressure, broadcast oversight, and the financial stakes tied to major licensing deals, all aimed at removing Jimmy Kimmel from television altogether.
Government cannot be allowed to control what we do and do not say on television, and that we have to stand up to it.
And for 6 days in September 2025, the effort appeared to succeed. This is what unfolded next. To understand how a late-night host became central to what many described as a major First Amendment controversy, you have to go back to September 15th, 2025. Charlie Kirk, founder of Turning Point USA, had been assassinated. The nation was grieving, emotions were raw, tensions high. In that environment, Jimmy Kimmel did what he's known for. He made a joke. He compared Trump's reaction to the situation to that of a child mourning a pet goldfish. The backlash was immediate. Within a day, the reaction escalated from social media outrage to discussions inside the White House. Brendan Carr, then chairman of the FCC, appeared on a conservative podcast and issued remarks that many legal experts later described as a veiled warning. He suggested that ABC affiliates could resolve the situation the easy way or the hard way, implying that failure to act could lead to regulatory consequences. Nexstar Media Group, one of the largest owners of ABC affiliates and in the middle of a multi-billion-dollar acquisition requiring FCC approval, announced it would stop airing Kimmel's show. Shortly after, Sinclair Broadcasting followed suit. ABC then announced that Jimmy Kimmel Live would be suspended indefinitely. A program that had run for over 2 decades suddenly went dark. There was no court ruling, no lawsuit, just a series of decisions made under mounting pressure. Even some political figures voiced concern. Senator
I have like 5 people who work in my office with me, so the only private place to go is the bathroom.
Ted Cruz called the situation dangerous, while civil liberties groups raised alarms about free speech implications. And Kimmel himself reportedly learned about the decision in a moment far removed from the spotlight, unexpected and personal. For nearly a week, the studio remained silent. Outside the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood, supporters gathered in large numbers. Hundreds of public figures signed open letters defending free expression, while thousands of viewers canceled streaming subscriptions in protest. Demonstrations even reached major entertainment venues. Meanwhile, Trump publicly celebrated the development and hinted that other late-night hosts could face similar scrutiny. The message was unmistakable. Criticism could carry consequences. Then, on September 22nd, Disney announced the show's return. The following night, September 23rd, something remarkable happened. Kimmel walked onto the stage to a standing ovation before saying a single word. What followed was an 18-minute monologue that quickly became one of the most widely viewed in late-night history. Within 24 hours, it reached tens of millions of views online, alongside millions more watching on broadcast.
Anyway, as I was saying before I was interrupted,
without full affiliate coverage. He didn't begin with anger.
My intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it, and I still do.
Instead, he referenced a moment from 1960, recalling a time when another host faced removal during a network dispute. This was the moment that shifted expectations. Rather than leading with defiance, Kimmel began with empathy. He acknowledged Charlie Kirk as a person, a husband, a son, separate from the political conflicts surrounding his name.
So, this show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this. I mean, I've had the opportunity to meet and spend time with comedians and talk show hosts from countries like Russia, countries in the Middle East, who tell me they would get thrown in prison for making fun of those in power, and worse than being thrown in prison. They know how lucky we are here. Our freedom to speak is what they admire most about this country. And that's something I'm embarrassed to say I took for granted until they pulled my friend Steven off the air and tried to coerce the affiliates who run our show in the cities that you live in to take my show off the air. That's not legal. That's not American. That is un-American, and it is so dangerous.
He even recognized Kirk's family's call for forgiveness. Audience members later described the atmosphere as emotional, with many visibly moved. And once the room was quiet, he changed direction. He addressed Brendan Carr directly, repeating the phrase,
"Should the government be allowed to regulate which podcasts the cell phone companies and Wi-Fi providers are allowed to let you download to make sure they serve the public interest? Do you think that sounds crazy? No. 10 years ago, this sounded crazy."
The easy way or the hard way, and asked viewers to consider what it means when a regulatory authority pressures broadcasters over a comedy.
Oh, wait, no, not that. The other part.
But let me tell you, if the government gets in the business of saying,
what you
we
can
don't
and can't
like
say,
what you, the media, have said, we're going to ban you from the airwaves if you don't say what we like, that will end up bad for conservatives.
I don't think I've ever said this before, but Ted Cruz is right. He's absolutely...
Segment. The question wasn't framed politically. It was framed as something that could affect anyone. Then came the turning point, one that many later saw as defining the entire moment. The applause that followed wasn't about partisanship. It felt like relief. Kimmel had shifted the focus away from himself and toward a larger issue. He reframed the situation, not as a personal conflict, but as a question of principle. Can government influence be used to penalize speech in entertainment? That message reached millions both that night and in the days that followed. The response was swift. Affiliates began reversing their decisions. Analysts and legal experts examined the situation closely, with many describing it as a textbook example.
Tried to get me fired in September. It didn't work, Mr. President. I admire your tenacity. If you're watching tonight, which I presume you are, how about this? I'll go when you go, okay? We'll be a team. Let's ride off into the sunset together like Butch Cassidy and the Suntan Kid. And until then, if I may borrow a phrase from you,
of regulatory pressure affecting speech. And throughout it all, Trump continued responding publicly.